Chapter 5. The Alchemist's Grimoire. The celestial library loomed against the night sky like a monument to forgotten knowledge. Its neo-Gothic spires twisted upward into the darkness, while gargoyles perched on every corner seemed to watch their approach with stone eyes that glittered in the streetlight. The building had been sealed for 30 years, ever since the Great Convergence had made its collection of Preacor's magical texts too dangerous for public access. "Remind me why we're not waiting for backup," Jade muttered as they approached the main entrance. The massive oak doors were bound with chains that hummed with containment spells, but someone had already cut through them with surgical precision. "Because by the time backup arrives, our killer will be long gone," Drew replied, examining the severed chains. "And because I have a feeling this isn't about catching someone in the act, this is about what they're looking for." The cut chains sparked with residual magic as Drew pushed the doors open. Beyond lay a vast entrance hall filled with floating shelves that stretched up into the darkness, their contents hidden behind protective ward glass. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across reading tables covered in decades of dust. "Stay close," Jade said, drawing her service weapon, "and trying not to touch anything. Half the books in here are probably cursed." They made their way deeper into the library, following a trail of disturbed dust and the faint scent of ozone as seemed to accompany their killer. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the soft hum of containment fields and the occasional creak of ancient wood settling. "There," Drew whispered, pointing to a section where several protective barriers had been methodically dismantled. "Transmutation and alchemical theory." Someone knew exactly what they were looking for. They found the body in the rare book section, between towering stacks of grimoires and treatises on forbidden magic. The victim was a young woman in library security uniform, her remains forming the now familiar amber puddle beside a scorched sigil. But unlike the previous murders, this one felt different, hurried, almost careless. "She was in the wrong place at the wrong time," Jade observed, crouching beside the remains. "This wasn't planned." No, it wasn't. Drew was examining the nearby shelves, his practiced eye cataloging what was missing. "Several texts on elemental manipulation are gone, but there's something else." He paused, his enhanced senses picking up something Jade couldn't detect. "The killer's still here." Before Jade could respond, a voice echoed from the shadows between the stacks. "Detective Hemley, I was wondering when you'd arrive." A figure stepped into the light, tall, elegant, wearing the formal robes of a master alchemist. But something was wrong with his movements, too fluid, too controlled. And his eyes. "Professor Aldrich Thorne," Drew said, his voice carefully neutral. "I should have known." "Should you?" Thorne's smile was pleasant and completely at odds with the scene around them. "I suppose our paths were always destined to cross again, though I must say, your choice of partner is unexpected." Jade kept her weapon trained on him, though she suspected it would do little good. "You're the one who's been killing the alchemists." "Killing?" Thorne looked genuinely puzzled. "My dear detective, I've been saving them, preserving their knowledge, their essence, their contributions to the greater work." "By turning them into puddles of goo?" Jade's voice was flat with disgust. "By freeing them from the limitations of flesh." Thorne's tone was that of a teacher explaining a difficult concept to a slow student. The human form is so fragile, so temporary. But consciousness, properly preserved, can endure forever. Drew stepped forward, his hand moving instinctively toward his coat pocket. "The sigils. You're not just killing them, you're trapping their souls." "Finding them? Yes. Each one a component in a greater formula." Thorne's eyes gleamed with fanatic fervor. "Imagine it, Drew. 4 master alchemists, their combined knowledge and expertise preserved for eternity. The secrets they could unlock, the advances they could make, unencumbered by mortal concerns." "You're insane," Jade said bluntly. "Am I? Or am I simply the first to understand the true potential of our art?" Thorne gestured to the stolen books floating around him in a complex pattern. These texts contained the theoretical framework, but they lacked the practical application until now's. The liquidized starlight, Drew realized. You needed a medium to preserve consciousness during the transformation. "Precisely, though I must thank you for leading me to Madame Vex. Her reagents were exactly what I needed to perfect the process." Thorn's smile widened. And now, with the final component from this library's collection, I can complete the great work. What final component? Jade demanded. Thorn produced a slim volume bound in scales that seemed to shift color in the light. The Codex of Eternal Bonding, written by the Archmage Vileon himself before the Accords banned such research. With this, I can merge the preserved consciousnesses into a single entity of unimaginable power. Hivim, Drew breathed. You're trying to create a magical Hivimind. I'm trying to create perfection. Imagine the advances we could make, the problems we could solve, if the greatest minds in alchemy worked as one. Thorn's voice rose with evangelical intensity. No more competition, no more professional jealousy, no more human weakness, just pure, focused brilliance. Including your own consciousness, I assume, Jade said dryly. Eventually, yes, but first I need one more component. One more brilliant mind to complete the formula. Thorn's gaze fixed on Drew with predatory intensity. Someone whose knowledge of both magical theory and practical application is unparalleled. Someone who has walked in both worlds and understands the connections between them. You want Drew, Jade realized, raising her weapon. I want what he knows, the techniques he learned in the Fey courts, the forbidden knowledge he gained during his time with the Magical Crimes Division. His understanding of dimensional magic alone would be invaluable. Not happening, Jade said firmly. Oh, but it is. Thorn raised his hand and the air around them began to shimmer with building power. You see, I've been planning this for months. Every murder, every clue, every encounter was designed to bring him here, to this moment, with just enough knowledge to understand what he's about to become part of. You used us, Drew said, his voice tight with anger. The whispers from Blackthorn, the lead to Madame Vex, even the timing at the Dream Den, you work-stated all of it. I guided you, yes, like a conductor leading an orchestra. Thorn's smile was triumphant. And now for the grand finale. The stolen books began to glow with eldritch light, their pages fluttering open to reveal symbols that hurt to look at directly. The air itself seemed to thicken, charged with the kind of power that made reality itself malleable. Jade, get back, Drew said urgently, pulling out what looked like a small silver mirror. Whatever happens, don't let him complete the ritual. What about you? I'm going to stop him. Drew's reflection in the mirror began to shift and change, showing not his current self but glimpses of other possibilities. Drew in formal Fey robes, Drew wielding weapons of pure light, Drew standing in courts of crystalline starlight. Even if it means using everything Alara warned me not to. The mirror shattered and power exploded outward from Drew's position. Not the gentle charm he'd shown before, but raw, devastating force that sent books flying and cracked the ancient stone floor. When the light faded, he stood transformed, taller, more angular, with eyes that held the cold fire of distant stars. You want to know what I learned in the Fey courts? Drew's voice carried harmonics that made the air itself sing. Let me show you. Thorn's confident smile faltered for the first time. Impossible. The binding restrictions should have prevented. The binding restrictions were placed on Drew Hemley, minor noble of the Summer Court. Drew's form flickered between human and something altogether more alien. They were never placed on Prince Andreth of the Winter Court. Jade stared at her partner, if that's what he still was, as the truth hit her like a physical blow. Drew wasn't just some disgraced detective with a mysterious past. He was Fey nobility, probably high-ranking, definitely powerful, and almost certainly more dangerous than anything they've faced so far. A prince, she said faintly. You're actually a fucking prince. Language, Detective Drew Andreth said, but his attention was focused on Thorn. Professor, I'm afraid your research ends here. No. Thorn snarled, and the ritual circle blazed to life around him. I will not be denied, not when I'm so close. The battle that followed was unlike anything Jade had ever witnessed. Thorn wielded the stolen knowledge of 4 master alchemists, reshaping matter itself with gesture and will. Stone became liquid, air became solid, and the very laws of physics seemed to bend around him. But Drew, Prince Andreth, fought with the refined cruelty of winter itself. Ice formed from nowhere to trap Thorn's movements, while cutting winds sharp enough to slice stone forced him back. The two combatants moved through the library like forces of nature, leaving destruction in their wake. The books! Jade shouted over the chaos. If he loses the stolen texts, the ritual can't be completed. Drew nodded, understanding immediately. While he kept Thorn occupied, Jade moved through the battle zone with her troll-enhanced resilience, grabbing the floating grimoires and crushing them with her bare hands. Each destroyed book made Thorn's power flicker, his perfect control beginning to slip. "You don't understand," Thorn screamed as his ritual circle began to collapse. "Without the great work, we're all doomed. The convergence points are failing. The barriers between worlds are weakening. Only a unified consciousness can find the solution." "Then we'll find another way," Drew said coldly, "one that doesn't require murder." With a final gesture, he encased Thorn in a prison of crystalline ice, the temperature dropping so rapidly that frost formed on every surface in a library. The stolen books fell to the floor, their power spent, while the ritual circle flickered and died. In the sudden silence, Jade could hear sirens approaching. The Fey enforcers had arrived along with what sounded like half the BDPD. "So," she said, looking at her partner who was slowly shifting back to his human appearance, "Prince Andreth, huh? Anything else you want to tell me about your mysterious past?" Drew. Who was Drew again? Though his eyes still held traces of that otherworldly fire, had the grace to look embarrassed. "It's complicated." "It always is with you." Jade holstered her weapon and walked over to check on the frozen Thorn. "Is he dead?" "No, just in stasis. He'll stand trial for the murders." Drew's voice was hoarse, the transformation having clearly taken its toll. "Jade, about what I am." "Save it for later, sunshine." She could hear boots on the library steps getting closer. "Right now, we need to figure out how to explain this mess to Morrison without getting ourselves arrested." "About that," Drew said weakly, "I may have just committed several violations of the Fee-Human Accords. Alara is going to kill me." "Get in line," Jade muttered, but there was something almost like affection in her voice. "Come on, Your Highness, let's go face the music." As they walked toward the approaching authorities, Jade found herself thinking about Thorn's final words. The convergence points failing, barriers between worlds weakening. If he was right, then they'd just stopped a symptom, not the disease. But that was a problem for another day. Right now, she had a partner to protect, a case to close, and a mountain of paperwork to fill out. Just another night in the life of a Veridia detective.